In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to collect the seed, and I'm also going to be sowing the seed from a very special plant, and it's Primula bulleyana. Welcome back to the garden. Today I'm going to be taking the seed from Primula bulleyana and sowing it as well. So Primula bulleyana is a damp lover. It really likes having its feet in wet soil. So we have it growing on this side of the garden, which is a lot less sunnier than the other side of the garden, and we also keep an eye on the moisture level in this border to make sure that they don't dry out. In late spring to early summer, it sends up these wonderful erect stems, and the flowers are a magnificent yellowy orange, and they literally in whirls of flowers that go up in stages. So as one finishes flowering, another one's coming up, and then another one, and you maybe get 3 or 4 different whirls of flowers. So I'm looking at the plant today, and I can see that it has set some seed, and I know that because the seed pod has gone brown, and in some of the seed pods it's just opened at the top, and I can just hear the little seed rattling around inside. So it's a perfect time now to be collecting the seed and also sowing it. So first of all, I'm going to make sure that I've got a pre-labelled seed bag, and again it's a paper bag. And I'm just going to snip off just the heads that are already open, straight into the bag. See if there's any more. And then I'm going to take these back to the potting tray and we'll get sowing. So come and join me. So I'm back at my trusty potting tray, and I've got my lovely seeds in hand, which means it must be time for sowing. So I'm just going to fill this half tray full of multi-purpose compost. Taking out any large parts. There we go, pressing everything down into the corners, making sure it's all nice and flat. So, with regards to Primula bulleyana and a lot of the other primulas, what happens is, not long after these primulas finish flowering, they produce green seed, and the seed pod fattens, and if you just pierce it, you'll see a lot of these very small greenish seeds. And they are completely ripe. They can be sown straight away, and they will germinate the same year. We've allowed this to mature into the brown seed. We wasn't quite quick enough to get in there and sow it when it was at the green seed stage. So we've managed to leave it, and now it's ready now to be sown at this time of year. There are 2 things to remember with primulas, and that is, what normally happens is they need a period of cold before they will germinate. So what we're going to do is we're going to sow them today, and we're going to allow them just to overwinter. They won't come up this year, and what will happen is they'll have the snow, they'll have the frost, they'll have all the extremes of the weather, and then come the spring the temperature will warm up, and that will then break the dormancy of the seed, and the seed will germinate. You can also collect the seed, save the seed in one of these little envelopes like I'm going to do, and then sow the seed in spring. But the problem with that is, because they won't have undergone the process of being cold, what we have done in the past when we have sown primula seeds in the spring is we've put the whole tray, the whole seed tray, into the bottom of the fridge, and then probably for about a month to 6 weeks brought them back out of the fridge and allowed them to warm back up again, and that just breaks the dormancy. This is the process known as stratification. So what happens in nature, you're trying to mimic, because normally these seeds, the long stems would get heavier and heavier. They'll start to lean towards the soil. The seeds would be dispersed. It would then overwinter in the soil. It would get the cold snap through the winter, and then during the spring the warmer weather would come and the seeds would germinate. So by sowing in the spring, what you'd have to do is stratify the seeds. You can do that potentially by putting the whole seed bag into the fridge and then bringing them out in spring and sowing them. That could work. We've never done that. We've always sown them direct into a tray, put the whole tray into the fridge, and then brought it out after 6 weeks, and then the seeds have germinated. That's a lot of faff. It can be a lot of, particularly if you've got a small fridge, it can be a bit impractical. So the best thing we do with seeds, when they're brown like this, we're going to sow them, leave the tray outside, and they will germinate in the spring. So just getting my trusty seeds now. So if you remember, I took the whole seed pod off, and what I'm just going to do now is just empty that seed pod into my hand. And release all these absolutely gorgeous seeds. And no matter how many times I sow seeds, I still remind myself of the miraculous, amazing process that it is. From these tiny little seeds, whole new plants can be born. So just in my half tray, I'm just going to sow quite thinly, just scattering the seeds along the surface of the seed tray. And I probably use maybe just one of the seed pods just to fill this tray, and that's plenty. So I'm now just going to cover this with some grit, because I really like to have grit on the top of my seed trays. We used to grow this variety with some other Candelabra Primulas in Sheffield, in our Sheffield garden, and we had Primula japonica Miller's Crimson, which is like a purpley red colour, and we also grew it with the Primula beesiana, which is the pink. So having the contrast between the Primula bulleyana, which is the yellowish colour, the Primula beesiana, which is the pink, and also the Primula Miller's Crimson, we had a whole bank full of these primulas, and come late spring, early summer, the garden was ablaze with these lovely colours in these plants, and they were particularly fantastic. They love to grow in moist soil, so if you have clay, they'll adore clay soil. They don't like to dry out. Where we have them planted in this garden, we've kind of kept them out of the main sun, so they're on the shadier side of the garden. But the problem is, during the heat waves, they have suffered a little bit. We have had to go around and water, because they have shown the distress. The leaves go all limp, and the flowers start to bend over, so you've got to be careful to make sure they don't dry out. So there you go. So what I'll do with this now is I'll just put this to one side, and I will come back to this in spring, and hopefully in spring we'll see a load of little germination of seedlings all over the surface, and we'll come back and we'll show you exactly how they've been developing. So give us a like on this video if you've enjoyed the content. Drop any comments in the box below of your experience of growing primulas. We'd love to hear how you grow them yourself. So see you next time for another video in the garden. You take care, and see you soon.